Well, hello and welcome to the African News on Voice of the People Television. I am David Edwin. Before we begin the news, we would urge you to kindly visit our website www.vop.ng for fresh and trending stories. We begin the African News with the story of the Catholics in Ivory Coast that says they are happy with the new Pope Leo the 14th, despite dashing hopes of electing an African Pope. Earlier at St. John's Catholic Church in Abidjan, the faithfuls gathered to pray for the conclave. A priest who serves as head of communications for the Catholic Church in Ivory Coast, Javier Conan, said in a statement that they are very happy and are praying for the new Pope. Catholic faithfuls Clementine Zogo said she was grateful that the conclave has concluded. A Catholicism declines in Europe. It is expanding in the developing world, with the number of faithfuls growing faster in Africa than anywhere else. There were a few African cardinals considered to be in the running to becoming the Pope. At least 20% of the global Catholic community lives in Africa. Moving on, Sierra Leone accounted for half of Africa's confirmed mpox cases this week, the continent's main health body said on Thursday, adding that the West African country was fueling the outbreak. Mpox is a viral infection that spreads through close contact and typically causes flu-like symptoms and pulsified lesions. It is usually mild but can be lethal. It remains a public health emergency due to the continuing rise in the number of cases and the geographic spread of the outbreak, according to the World Health Organization, which first declared the emergency in August last year. The African Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC, said Sierra Leone reported 384 confirmed cases in a week, representing 50.7% of all the continent's cases. In an online briefing, African CDC official Ngashi Ngongo said Sierra Leone, which declared mpox a public health emergency in January, has seen a 63% jump in confirmed cases in just 1 week. Ngongo said that funding was the main issue, but added that contact tracing and laboratory capacity also needed to be improved. In another development, the U.S. says it will cut $50 million in annual aid to Zambia because of what it described as the systemic theft of donated drugs and medical supplies. Washington's ambassador to the country, Michael Gonzalez, said the difficult decision comes after repeated warnings to the government to safeguard the vital medicines. These included life-saving drugs to treat malaria, HIV, and tuberculosis. He said the U.S. discovered that in 2021 that medicine and medical supplies that were meant to be provided free to Zambians were being taken and sold by pharmacies across the country. An investigation of around 2,000 pharmacies in Zambia between 2021 and 2023 found that nearly half of them were selling medicines and products paid for by U.S. aid funds. Gonzalez said the Zambian government failed to do enough to address the corruption after being informed of the theft scandal last year. He said the U.S. was no longer willing to underwrite the personal enrichment of fraudsters with American taxpayers' money. And from Zambia, we'll move straight to Morocco, where Morocco plans to spend 7 billion dirhams, translating to $760 million, on storage platforms across the country to stockpile necessities in immediate response to potential disasters, state media has said. The stockpile were ordered by King Mohammed VI in the wake of the devastating earthquake that hit the high Atlas Mountains in September 2023, killing more than 2,900 persons and destroying homes and vital infrastructure. Morocco has faced recurrent flash floods, wildfires, cold snaps, and droughts in recent years. Under the stockpiling projects, Morocco will spend 2 billion dirhams on building 36 storage facilities across the country over a total surface area of 240 hectares, while 5 billion dirhams will be spent on emergency supplies, the media said. The supplies include tents, beds, blankets, field hospitals, mobile kitchens and bakeries, water purification systems, and emergency power generators, as well as equipment in response to flood, landslide, and chemical threats. Meanwhile, the bodies of a journalist and his partner have been found in South Africa in an advanced stage of decomposition more than 2 months after they were missing, local media groups have said. Police said they had found human remains, but DNA tests still needed to be conducted to confirm they were those of radio journalist Sibusiso Aserie Ndlovu and his partner Zodwa Precious Ndululi. In a joint statement, two media groups said the police had achieved a breakthrough after arresting 5 suspects. The couple were murdered and their bodies dumped in a bush in northern Limpopo province, the media group said, adding that the deaths had left them in shock and disbelief. The suspects had reportedly been arrested with stolen furniture, appliances, and the parts of a car belonging to the couple who had been missing since 18th February. Ndlovu was the founder of a local radio station, Capital Live, in South Africa's capital, Pretoria. Still in South Africa, South African park rangers and a local wildlife organization rescued more than 80 vultures from a mass poisoning in the country's Kruger National Park this week, though they were unable to save over 120 vultures. South African National Parks, that's SANParks, and the Endangered Wildlife Trust said it was one of the largest vulture poisoning events in southern Africa. Officials from the organization suspect poachers are to be blamed as they are increasingly using agricultural toxins to target species whose body parts are in demand for traditional medicine. Some of the vultures rescued are classified as endangered or critically endangered, including the white-backed vulture. The rescue was made possible by a wildlife poisoning detection system in a remote section of the Kruger Park. After being alerted to suspicious activities, the rangers who arrived on site delivered 116 dead vultures near an elephant carcass laced with poison. The death toll later rose to 123 vultures as more birds die on the way to a rehabilitation center. Well, joining us now to make sense of these stories and more is Mr. Peter Anosike, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst and an economist by profession. Mr. Peter, a very good afternoon to you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, again, it's interesting that we are in this table and talking about something that did happen yesterday. A lot of Catholic faithfuls are excited, and of course, it is no more news that the new Pope has been emerged, the Pope Leo XIV, despite, of course, several hopes of an African Pope being elected. I could recall clearly, you did say here that something very interesting is going to happen in that particular election. Take us through from what you said last week, and of course, the hopes of some Africans who are thinking that there might be an African Pope to emerge being dashed.
The issue is this, a lot of people don't research deeply. because we have had an African Pope in 119 AD.
That's some centuries ago.
That's some centuries ago, but
Yeah.
but we've had an African Pope. Just like many people will tell you that America has never had a female president, but America has had a female president.
Right.
Understand me?
Right.
So, but they don't research it deeply. So, for me, what happens is I'm happy with the with the election, because before this thing is the Italian mafians. We are the one who determines who emerges as a pope.
Before now or presently?
Before now.
Okay.
That is why most of the people who have become pope all had their roots in Italy. Even the last pope, Pope Francis,
Right.
is an Italian that's Argentine.
Okay.
Understand me? So when you go and check the history of the other popes, they always have something to do with Italy. So Italy sees it as their private property.
Oh.
Understand me?
Okay.
So I'm happy that it is now leaving that Europe. As it has gotten to America today, maybe next time it will get to Africa.
All right. Now, again, some quarters have said that the involvement of some political actors seemed to be one of the major reasons why this played out the way it played out. You would recall that Donald Trump did say that he is not just the president of America, he is the president of the world.
The president of the world.
Now, some quarters have said that his action in the past weeks, particularly before the election of the Pope, seemed to have triggered something in the Vatican for this decision to have been made. And of course, a lot of persons call the new Pope the American Pope. Is that even anything to go by?
One, in recent time, he's the first Pope from America. Understand me? From state of Chicago.
Chicago.
But that's what we used to say, that confession is possession.
Right.
Of all the presidents of federal government in the 195 countries of the world, it is only America, understand me, it's only Donald Trump who made a confession that he would like to be Pope. Understand me? It is only him that did an AI of himself as a Pope. Understand me?
Right.
Even if you check when they arrive when heads of government came there to pay a kind of to commiserate with the late Pope.
Right.
Donald Trump was the only person that was not properly dressed. Understand me? And the culture, you know the dress code here. Why didn't you dress how others dress?
Right.
So he always separating himself.
Okay.
Understand? So as I said that confession is possession. So he confessed and the America got it.
Oh, well.
He's a very influential person.
Right.
Understand me? At least in the world today, we know now about 3 influential presidents. Donald Trump, Jinping of China. And Putin of Russia.
Okay. All right. Well, from what you say now, more like there was a little bit of influence from the part of Donald
There's
Trump.
politics everywhere in the world.
In other words, this has a finger of politics
No,
in
the Bible, the wife of Zebedee.
Yes.
Remember that James and John were the sons of Zebedee.
Right.
Their mother brought them to Jesus and want them to be in your left and right. Understand me? So there's politics everywhere. It didn't start today and it will not end today.
Oh, well, from that
So,
story...
but
yes.
kudos to Donald Trump. He's really running things.
Now, yesterday, when that session before he was pronounced the Pope, I saw quite a number of people around the Vatican, and I saw flags. But strangely, I did not see an African flag. Maybe I missed it out. Some persons have said that the physical presence of Africans, even at the Vatican, is another reason why they don't get that acceptability in terms of wanting to have them nominated.
No, one of a 76-year-old cardinal from Ghana was among the contestants.
Yes.
Understand me? Then our own Peter Opaneke was one of the voters. Was one of the 133 people that voted. So maybe Africans did not vote for themselves.
Okay, now let's get to another conversation. But then, congratulations to the new Pope. You also are optimistic because I hear people say he's a bit younger. He's 65 years.
69.
69, I beg your pardon. His age is going to also help, in terms of him being there for a while. You think that is also possible?
We always know popes with they move slowly with age.
Right.
And this can hinder all the activities. So this one is a bit young, but the disadvantage is going to stay there for a long time. And before he's through,
you just said that's a disadvantage.
Yes, he's going to stay there for a long time. His contemporaries, who have been very old, understand me,
and might not get any
and might not
space to get
understand me. Oh. Yeah, so the new pope that we might be seeing, all these people now that contested with him, he is going to retire all of them. Understand me? He's going to retire all of them.
Okay.
So we are going to now see a new cardinals will be appointed.
Right.
So we'll be looking at a new pope maybe in the next 20 years.
Okay.
Which is a very, very,
very long time. Well, again, just like you said, the emergence of this pope means that the people who contested alongside him would not be contesting again. All right, let's get to another conversation. Sierra Leone seems to be having a major situation, and that is the major increase in mpox cases in the country. In fact, it's accounted to them the entire half of Africa's confirmed mpox cases in that particular country. Is this a major situation that should be worrisome to neighboring countries? Because you know for a fact that people do business, and the transition of people from one place to another is one of the factors that expands this mpox virus. You think this would be a concern for African countries, even neighboring countries around Sierra Leone?
It should be a very big concern, because if you remember, Sawyer, who brought Ebola disease to Nigeria, came from Sierra Leone.
Yes.
Understand me? So it should be a major concern. And at this point of economic downturn, people shouldn't be falling sick. People, understand me?
Because the cost of medications have become high.
High. It's good that you are looking for what to eat than money for medication. So, and now at the pulse of the WHO, it's no more as buoyant as it used to. Because many donor countries are struggling financially because of the global economic downturn.
Okay.
Because most countries have not recovered from COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, looking at the fact that these figures are this alarming, 384 confirmed cases in just a week, and of course that represents about 50.7% cases across the continent of Africa. The fact that these numbers are alarming is one. And another situation that seems to be very disturbing when it comes to Sierra Leone is the fact that right now they seem not to have a hold of it. They are asking for support, they are asking for more medical care and help from the World Health Organization that have also said that they have funds in very depleted numbers. So, worrisome times for Sierra Leone. How can these be managed by the Center for Africa, beg your pardon, African Center for Disease Control. How do you think this can be managed?
Well, for me, first of all, is to declare a state of emergency, understand, on health in the country. Then, as they are doing now, beg for the donor agencies and companies and like Pfizer,
Yes.
for vaccines, understand me. They can start with the preventions, so that that is to curtail the spreading. Because what we are seeing, it is spreading very, very fast.
Very, very fast.
So they should find a way of quarantining the people who are already affected. Then look at how to begin to give them preventive measures. So a health emergency should be declared in the country.
Now, as it stands, Mr. Peter, this is becoming even a major issue because according to the Minister for Health in Sierra Leone, I'm talking about Ngongo, he did say that laboratory capacity is another problem on its own with this high number that is increasing by the day. And to also think that contact tracing is another situation. Sierra Leone is also a country that has neighboring countries around her, plus the fact that they do business. If a state of emergency is declared in the health sector, how wouldn't that affect the economy going forward?
It's going to affect, but the two most important things in the world is health and wealth.
Right.
And in alphabetical order, H comes before W. So health should be given priority before wealth.
Okay.
Understand me?
Right.
Health should be given priority before wealth.
Well, interesting.
So they should try kind of isolating people who are already affected. Understand? That's what I mean by quarantine. So that it will not spread.
Okay.
Understand? So that it will not spread. And I pray that it is not being unreported. Because some people may still be keeping their victims in their homes.
Now that's another situation, Mr. Peter.
Sure. Yes.
When it's underreported, what is the implication of that?
It will be spreading without this CDC knowing actually what is going on. So there should be an enlightenment. They should be keep on hammering. If you have anybody with such and such symptoms, understand?
Yeah.
You report. Understand me? This is the only way to avoid spreading. Because some people don't always like bringing their people. Even when COVID was here, some people were covering their own relations who are suffering from COVID.
For fear of being isolated.
For fear of being isolated, and again for societal
stigmatization.
Sure.
All right, let's get to another conversation. In the words of Mahatma Gandhi, real wealth lies in your health. And as it stands, Mr. Peter, U.S. is getting some major sanctions on Zambia. The U.S. government has decided to cut $50 million health aid to Zambia. And that's because they uncovered that some pharmaceutical drugs that was given to the country that was supposed to be for the people to treat them for free are being sold in pharmacies. Mr. Peter, Africa and the way we do our things, again, this Zambia situation, what's your position?
Well, in Africa, because of our level of involvement, we still do people over profit, understand me, and the money over moral, which is supposed to be the opposite. Understand? People over profit and the moral over, understand me. So that's what is happening, because America decided to take the decision because it is going into wrong hands. Understand me?
Right.
This is supposed to be a kind of a gift to the people.
I mean, life-saving
Understand me?
drugs
Yes,
for
sir.
malaria,
And,
HIV, tuberculosis.
They now turned
being
it.
sold.
They now turned it into a profit-making venture. So even if it's you should stop it. Even if it's you, because you may have a good intention. That's why I was telling people that there's a very big difference between a good Samaritan and a wise Samaritan.
Right.
So it's good to be a wise Samaritan instead of a good Samaritan.
But in the place of wanting to be a good Samaritan, isn't that what the Holy Book preaches? Rather
No,
than
it's better to
wise?
be a wise Samaritan. Good Samaritan would just give without asking questions. Understand me? But a wise Samaritan will make sure that what that thing is slated for is done. Understand me? An instance, if you say, I need a knife, and I take a knife and give to you, I'm a good Samaritan. But if you say you need a knife, I say, what do you want to do with this? That's wisdom.
Now, there is a situation here, Mr. Peter. Washington's ambassador to the country, I'm talking about Michael Gonzalez, did say that it was a difficult decision to take for such courts,
because
they contacted the government.
It's going to affect all the health of people.
Now, here's another part. They've contacted the government, gave them warnings severally, but they did not hit to it. So it's looking more like it's even a governmental problem.
A state-sponsored corruption. That's time. It's a state-sponsored corruption.
At the expense of the health of your people?
That's why I say in Africa, we prioritize profit over people. In Africa, we prioritize profit over people,
now,
which is very, very wrong.
Let's look at the implication of this court. $50 million health aid court that has been, of course, suspended in Zambia. What is the implication of these kind of aid being withdrawn from Zambia?
A lot of people are going to die. Understand me? That's the number one implication. A lot of people are going to die. People who are already victims will not see money again for treatment. Understand me? So, and
quite unfortunate, really.
It's not good.
Now, looking at the fact that U.S. government, even though Donald Trump has been saying it is America first, according to some reports from the same ambassador, an investigation of over 2,000 pharmacies in Zambia between 2021 and 2023 was found that nearly half of those 2,000 are selling these medicines that are meant for the people.
Mind you, these drugs are handed over to the government.
To the government, that's the situation.
So it is those government people that go and sell it, understand me, to those maybe pharmacists. Maybe some of them in government may have their own pharmaceutical church, understand me.
Sorry.
So that's the corruption we are talking about in Africa.
Well, it's unfortunate, really, because the U.S. government has said they will no longer want to write to any of this situation because they feel that the government is practically involved in all of this after several warnings. But then let's get to another conversation. Interestingly, Morocco is planning for the future, Mr. Peter. Morocco is to invest $760 million in disaster response, more like planning ahead for situations like flood, landslides, and all of that. So they are looking at having to be prepared ahead. This a major plus for the country or a waste of money?
If you think of economies that are doing well in Africa now, Morocco is among. And as we speak, Nigeria is the fourth largest economy, and Morocco is 5. But Morocco is going to take over from Nigeria before 2027.
Okay.
Because they have an organized economy, they have a diversified electricity, that they are now having constant electricity, which is one of the biggest boosts that any economy can have. With electricity companies will begin to spring up. So the economy is doing well. Everything is going well for them as we speak. As I said, they are going to push Nigeria out of the fourth largest economy and take over.
Now, looking at the fact that Morocco is planning this project under, of course, the stockpiling project, that's what it's called, about 2 billion dirhams, which translates to the $760 million that I mentioned earlier, will be spent on supplies that includes tents, bed, blankets, field hospitals, mobile kitchens, and all of that, over an area surface of 240 hectares of land. Economically, do you think this is a wise decision, planning ahead for disasters like flood, landslide, and all of that that might be very, very possible to happen anytime soon?
The king is a visionary, understand? Because you need to be proactive in whatever you are doing. You should always be thinking, what if?
Right.
Understand me?
Right.
What if? So Morocco is thinking, what if? They are not praying for that thing to happen, but they want to be proactive. If it happens, we already have a solution. So leaders solve problems before they happen, and that's what Morocco is doing as we speak.
Oh, well, a lot of persons have said that the Arab nations have a way of thinking ahead when it comes to planning. I'm going to let you go now, Mr. Peter, but in one sentence, vultures rescued en masse from poisoning in South Africa. Interestingly, more than 80 vultures were rescued after a mass poisoning that took over 120 vultures in the country. And of course, this is coming from the South African National Park. I'm talking about the Sand Park. The poisoning and, of course, animals dying in these large numbers. Animal species that a lot of persons are not seeing going into extinct. You think this might have a major toll on wildlife in South Africa? 80 were rescued, 120 dead already.
What really happened was that, vultures eat dead animals.
Yeah.
So the animal, the elephant is toxic. And that's where all the poison came from. So which means...
you don't think it's from the poachers who are trying to kill the elephant and, of course, get parts of the elephant? I mean...
That is the toxicity I'm talking about.
Okay.
Understand me? So it's just like in Nigeria, people that uses carbide, that's to store fruits.
Right.
It's already poisoned. So that's why a lot of people are getting food poisoning.
Okay.
So they should find a way, understand me. In Kenya, wildlife are being well protected, well preserved. So I feel that South Africa can go to Kenya and then one or two things from them.
Interestingly, even Kenya is also getting it interestingly tough, because just a couple of days ago, a young Belgian and a Vietnamese and 2 Kenyans were trying to export illegally over 7,000 ants out of Kenya.
That's hunger.
Wow. Hunger?
Hunger.
Illegally?
Hunger.
Wow. Okay, that's a way to really wrap up the analysis segment of the African News. We've been talking with Mr. Peter Anosike, who is Voice of the People TV's in-house political affairs analyst, and of course, an economist by profession. Once again, thank you so very much, Mr. Peter, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
The rest of the African News will continue shortly, just after this quick break. Do stay with us. Glad to have you back. It is still the African news right here on Voice of the People Television. Now to more stories. An attempt by Mali's military government to stamp out public dissent by banning all political activities will be put to the test on Friday as critics, wary of security and economic woes, called for protests. Authorities on Wednesday announced that all work by political parties and other political organizations had been suspended until further notice to preserve public order. The move came ahead of planned protests in the capital Bamako and the city of Ségou against the government, which came to power after coups in 2020 and 2021. Reports say government critics, including activists and opposition politicians, appeared keen to build momentum after unprecedented public gatherings on May the 3rd and 4th in Bamako, which was triggered by recommendations from a National Council of Political Actors to hand military leader Assimi Goïta a 5-year mandate and dissolve all political parties. Still in Mali, there are reports that says Mali owes more than $94 million to the entity managing a dam which also provides power to Senegal and Mauritania, and the debt has become a question of life and death for its ability to continue operating, according to a letter made available to newsmen. A funding gap raised the specter of more electricity supply problems in Mali, where outages in recent years have dented public support for the military government that took power through coup in 2020 and 2021. The Manatali Dam and power plants came online in 2002 and has an installed capacity of 200 megawatts. More than half of what it produces goes to Mali, while Senegal gets 33% and Mauritania gets 15%. Mali currently owns what has been described as an enormous amount of more than 54 billion CFA, about $94.12 million, to Sorghum, the entity that manages Manantali and several other projects, according to an April 25th letter from Sorghum to the Director General of Énergie du Mali, Mali's electric utility. Sorghum's Director General, Mohamed Mahmoud Sid Lamine, said it is now a question of life or death for the organization's installation and for Sorghum. Moving on, a $200 million margin call by JP Morgan on Angola's $1 billion loan at the height of the global sell-off of risky assets has exposed the high cost of unorthodox financing heavily indebted African issuers have been turning to, analysts did say. Africa's debt has soared to more than $1.8 trillion, the American Development Bank leading to 3 sovereign debt defaults in the past 4 years and unconventional financing deals as governments wrestle with high repayments. Senegal, Gabon, and Cameroon are among those who have resorted to so-called off-screen deals like private bond replacements in recent months, as heavy debt burden and political uncertainty in some cases limits their access to regular markets. Meanwhile, the Guinean government's move to revoke Emirates Global Aluminium, that's the EGA mining license, stemmed from the company's failure to fulfill its commitment to construct an alumina refinery. People familiar with the matter have told journalists. Recall that Guinea on Wednesday launched a process to revoke the EGA license, escalating a dispute that began in October with the suspension of the Emirati company's bauxite exports and mining operations. The move by Guinea, the world's second largest bauxite exporter, threatened to further disrupt global aluminium supply chains and signals the resource-rich country's hardening stance towards towards foreign miners as the military government that seized power in September 2021 pushes for more local processing of minerals. You're still watching the African News right here on Voice of the People television. We're going to a quick break right now, and when we return, more stories in business and sports after now. Do stay with us. Glad to have you back. It is still the African News right here, Voice of the People television. Now to some business stories. Banks in sub-Saharan Africa will not be directly impacted by U.S. import tariffs, but second round effects, including their impact on the macroeconomic outlook and on China, could still bite, credit rating agency Moody has said. The impact is likely to include higher funding costs and fallout from slower growth in China, which is a big export market for sub-Saharan African commodity exporters, Moody's did say in a recent report on African banks. While miners and oil companies ship less and less per ton, banks book fewer trade finance fees, potentially putting a quiz on new lending. China's official factory activities index fell to 49.0 in April, its weakest in 16 months, underlining the toll of U.S. tariffs. Still talking business, the Kenyan shilling was broadly steady on Friday as foreign exchange supply from exporters met subdued dollar appetite, according to some traders. At about 900 hours GMT, the shilling was trading at 128.75 to 129.75 to the US currency, compared with 129 to 129.50 at Thursday's close. And this is according to the London Stock Exchange Group data. Elsewhere, the Ugandan shilling was flat against the dollar on Friday amid thin trade on the markets, according to traders. At about 9:45 hours GMT, commercial banks quoted the shilling at 3,656 to 3,666, the same level as Thursday's close. To wrap up the African news, we'll go straight to some sports stories. Liverpool forward and Egyptian international Mohamed Salah and Arsenal striker Alicia Russo have won the Football Writers Association's award for Men's and Women's Player of the Season. Salah, who scored 28 goals and provided 18 assists this season to help Liverpool win the Premier League title, breaking the record for the most goal involvement in a single 28-game Premier League campaign. The Egyptian also scored 3 goals and provided 4 assists as Liverpool reached the last 16 of the Champions League. Last month, the 32-year-old signed a new 2-year contract to stay at Anfield until 2027. Salah won 90% of the votes casted by over 900 FWA members, marking the biggest winning margin this century. Still talking sports, and of course, Nigeria's Flying Eagle will trade tackle with Senegal in the quarterfinal of the 2025 African Cup of Nations tournament. Senegal booked a date with Nigeria after recording a comfortable 2-0 win over Democratic Republic of Congo in their final Group C game. The Cubs finished second in the group with 4 points from 3 games. The Flying Eagles will face Senegal at the Suez Canal Stadium Ismaïla next week, Monday. The encounter will start around 1 p.m. Nigerian time. The winner also will earn a spot at the 2025 FIFA Under-20 World Cup, scheduled to take place in Chile from September the 27th to October the 19th, 2025. Moving on, and still talking sports, Senegal are through to the semi-finals of the FIFA Beach Soccer World Cup Seychelles 2025 after a last round, I beg your pardon, after its last second 4-3 extra time victory over Italy in a thrilling clash at the Paradise Arena in Victoria on Thursday. Senegal will face Belarus in the last four on Saturday as they seek to reach the final of the Global Showpiece competition for the first time. Their previous best finish is fourth place in 2021. Belarus edged Iran 4-3 to book their semi-final place in the same tournament. And with that, we've come to the end of Africa News right here on Voice of the People Television. Do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel. On YouTube, we're at Voice of the People TV, and on all other social media platforms, we are at VOP TV Live. Thank you so very much for being a part of this broadcast. I am David Edwin. Do have a good afternoon.